Okay, so hello and welcome to everyone who is here in the Discord, and also welcome to the people who are possibly watching this after the live has already ended. You're watching in the present future. You are watching the past, present, and the present future. If you are in that situation, you can tune in, you can move ahead to the 5-minute mark, which is when we will officially get started with our practice today. We're going to be looking at a reading, and we'll kind of dive right into this reading on Chan Buddhism. And it's a kind of introduction, but also a very deep teaching, sharings of this tradition of Chan, and a few short talks about Zen, about Chan, from experienced teachers, from masters. So it should be a wonderful time. I will read through the text and maybe offer some extra sharing as I read through it. And then as we are reading, I want the space to kind of be open for, if something sticks out to you, if you notice something, if you're inspired by something and you want to say something or ask a question, please do, and kind of raise your hand or, say, hey, in the VC, and just kind of step in and say, hey, I want to ask about this, or I'd like to talk about this. And that's really good if you can do that. So I'm excited about this reading, and we will get started in just a few moments. Anyone have a question or something to share or clarify before we begin today? And thank you, Keem, for boosting the server. That's a very kind act of generosity, boosting our community. Hey there, Josh, just joining in. Welcome. So we've got a big group today. We've got 20 people here in the Discord, and many people here, a few people watching on YouTube. It's always nice to have a group, and we'll go right into the reading. So I think people usually enjoy that. Meditation can be difficult, can be a little bit too intimate at times. But as we go through this reading, it's very important to listen from your meditation mind. These kinds of, spiritual teachings, it's kind of like a walking through, in some sense, it's kind of like walking through a bush, a rose bush with poisoned thorns. And all of these thorns are kind of have this poison of the Dharma, have this poison of a wisdom. But naturally, we don't always think with our wisdom mind. We're usually thinking with like a craving mind, and we want to grab onto things, we want to reject things. But as we're walking through this, this rose bush of poisoned thorns, you don't want to attach to anything, because then you'll get stuck. Now you're stuck in this poisoned rose bush. But you also don't want to reject anything, because we do want to walk through it. This poison is the poison of a Dharma, the poison of wisdom. And if you don't understand, I would say you're getting off on the right foot. You're starting at the right place. That's That's where I'm starting as well. So I think we are at the 5-minute mark. We are. So we'll start with our reading today entitled Chan Talks. Chan means Zen. Zen Talks on Liberation and Enlightenment. Translated by Thomas Cleary. Thomas Cleary is a prolific translator of wisdom texts from Asia, from China, and just recently passed away. So we're very blessed that we have some of these people who spend time to translate these texts and these teachings. And it's so curious because I often find that these teachings have a modernity, modernness to them, and they have kind of a vitality to them that is so close to the present, and yet these are texts, these are teachings coming from hundreds and hundreds of years ago in traditional Chinese script. And so somehow that message is being transmitted through centuries, and yet it's so alive and it's so clear. So starting with an introduction. Chan Buddhism emerged as one of the most effective and influential schools of Buddhism in China several centuries after the introduction of Buddhism into that country. So Buddhism originally was started in India, and it slowly spread out. And one of the first countries that it really took root in was China. Drawing freely on the whole range of Buddhist scriptures and treatises without adhering to any fixed system, Chan attracted a large following and eventually played a key role in the development of the complete reality school of Neo-Taoism and the Neo-Confucian movement known as the study of principle. So throughout the history of China, there's been these three major philosophies, these three major schools of understanding. And that was a Taoism and Confucianism and Buddhism. And Buddhism, specifically Chan or Zen Buddhism, really took off and made a great impact on the other schools and the other traditions. Really, in some sense, at certain times, came out to be the most successful and the most influential school of thought and philosophy in China. The Chan talks translated here are of a genre known as general explanations, introduced by masters of the Song dynasty. So these texts are coming from 960 to 1278, the origin of these texts, going back many, many hundreds of years. When the great collections of Chan lore and case studies were compiled and elucidated by leading teachers of the age, Chan approaches to the realization of mental liberation and enlightenment are best illustrated by its teachers. And so now we will go through a kind of a list of these teachers and some of the what did they expound, what did they share, what did they teach. And so it says here, Zen approaches. So the Zen approach, the Zen understanding, as it relates to the realization of mental liberation and enlightenment. And this is this mental liberation and this enlightenment here is referring to the highest standard you can imagine of that word enlightenment. It's not talking about, some subset of enlightenment or some subset of understanding, but when you hear the word enlightenment or waking up, a spiritual realization, whatever, this is what that's referring to. This is the Zen understanding and the Zen Buddhist take on that. And this understanding is best illustrated by these teachers of Zen, starting with Ma Zu, who lived from 709 to 788. Mazu said, "The way does not require cultivation. Just don't defile it." What is defilement? As long as you have a fluctuating mind, artificiality, or compulsive tendencies, all of this is defilement. His successor, De Mei, said, "You should each individually clarify your own mind, getting to the root without pursuing the branches. Just get the root, and the branches come of themselves. If you want to get the root, just get to know your own mind." Moving on to Bai Zhang, who lives from 720 to 814. Another successor of Ma Zu, said, "Chan study is like washing a dirty garment. The garment is originally there. The dirt comes from outside. The process of purification is to strip away influences of habit. If people in the process of purification cannot get rid of the diseases of greed and hostility, they are as yet unhearing worldlings and still have to be taught to practice meditation and cultivate insight. Be master of mind. Don't be mastered by mind. If anyone should say, 'I am capable of explaining. I am able to understand. I am the teacher. You are the disciples,' this is the same as demonic suggestion and pointless talk." So I'll read that one again. I really like that one. So I'll read it again. And please, everyone, remember that you are encouraged to step in. If something comes to your mind, if you have a question about something, don't be shy. So Bai Zhang, the successor of Ma Zu on Chan enlightenment or Zen enlightenment, said, "Chan study is like washing a dirty garment. The garment is originally there. The dirt comes from outside. The process of purification is to strip away the influences of habit. If people in the process of purification cannot get rid of the diseases of greed and hostility, they are as yet unhearing worldlings and still have to be taught to practice meditation and cultivate insight. Be master of mind. Do not be mastered by mind. If anyone should say, 'I am capable of explaining. I am able to understand. I am the teacher. You are the disciples,' this is the same as demonic suggestion and pointless talk." So if you ever catch me saying, "I am able to understand, I am the teacher, you are my disciples," you should to remember this. That is a demonic talk. Bai Zhang's successor, Guishan, said, "The mind of a wayfarer is plain and direct, without artificiality." So this wayfarer here is the mind of someone on the path. The mind of a wayfarer is plain and direct, without artificiality. There is no denial or inclination, no deceptive, errant mental activity. At all times, seeing and hearing are normal. There are no further details. And one does not shut the eyes or block the ears. As long as feelings don't stick to things, that will do. The sages, since time immemorial, have just explained the problems of pollution. If one does not have all that false consciousness, subjective views, and habits of thought, one is like an autumn pond, clear and still, pure and uncontrived, placid and uninhibited. So certainly someone must have something to say about this. Let's hear. People can share something on what we've read so far. What's your feeling about it?
I feel like sometimes the more I learn about Buddhism, the less I actually understand.
And what is your understanding now?
Trying to understand.
I think don't try is a good advice. And actually something that was just coming from this last paragraph, um, at all times, seeing and hearing are normal. There are no further details. And one does not shut the eyes or block the ears. As long as feelings don't stick to things, that will do. So not rejecting any experience that we have. Sometimes the Zen masters, these meditation masters, would critique or scold certain monks, certain practitioners that had an attachment to this idea of stillness, that had an attachment to this idea of, I need to meditate to purify my mind. I need to close my ears and cover my ears. I need to experience silence.
Is my mic working properly now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So what I got was not letting all these emotions like linger inside of you and kind of letting the stresses of life, letting them go. That's really what I picked up on that. Because a lot of the times I find myself, lingering on emotions for too long and not letting them go. And if it's like a river, I just let that kind of stuff flow, let life flow. That's kind of what I got from it.
Just turn the light on.
That really resonates with me because some of my deepest meditative experiences have been when I've engaged with people and really listened and felt things evoked within myself but didn't act upon it, and it was like the experience became so much more and in a very profound way. So that really resonates with me. I didn't try to bring a technique to it. It was just this idea of flow, and it was interesting to feel and experience a lot more than I normally would.
How would you say that you brought that about?
To be honest, I have no idea. Sometimes I just get in this groove where whatever presents itself to me, I say, I'm not going to be upset with it. Or maybe I'll feel upset with it, but I'll just flow with it. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. It can be frustrating. I honestly don't know. It's something I've only really started experiencing in the last year or so.
So maybe you can try to flow with things not flowing.
Hi, everyone. In, so recently, I've been taking an art class that's all about just getting better at drawing, and it's very structured and very rigorous. And even though I'm very new, still trying to do the exercises. And when I feedback, sometimes I really appreciate it, but sometimes I just like have a lot of anger inwards at myself for not like getting it like the instructor gets it, even though I just need to really remind myself that I just need to do the exercise again, hope for the best, and think about all the right things, and that's all I can do. Like, just keep practice, if you understand what I mean by that.
Something like you do your best to apply yourself in the midst of a difficulty, even though it's difficult. Anyone else like to share?
Yeah, I had a question. Would you mind finishing? You were talking about what Zen masters would do, and they would scold others because they were forcing that out. I wasn't sure what that meant, so I wanted to hear what you were going to say.
Well, they having this attachment to meditation, and that is this attachment to stillness, that they can only have their wisdom experience, they can only experience a flow when things are flowing. They cover their ears, they close their eyes because they attach to stillness, and they attach to um, this experience of non-experience. Um, so this teacher, Guishan, says, at all times, seeing and hearing are normal. There are no further details. This is a very clear kind of meditation instruction. At all times, seeing and hearing are normal. There are no further details. So when we practice meditation, we get caught up in like a complex thinking, or in life. We get caught up in a complex thinking, a confusion, extra details. Things aren't just as they are. There's something extra. There's something added. We need to worry about it. We need to fix it. We need to solve it. There's this layer and there's that layer and all that. At all times, seeing and hearing are normal. There are no further details. So we can kind of find ourselves falling into or getting wrapped up in that seeing and hearing with more and more details, with more and more ideas, with more and more concepts. And then we return back to seeing and hearing just as they are, experiencing just this moment as it is right now, without anything added, without needing to take anything away from it, to subtract something to have our peace. And one does not shut the eyes or block the ears. As long as feelings don't stick to things, that will do. As long as we don't get stuck, as long as we don't hang on to. The sages, since time immemorial, so that sages is like the saints or the great teachers, people who have had a great understanding. The sages, since time immemorial, have just explained the problems of pollution. If one does not have all that false consciousness, subjective views, and habits of thought, one is like an autumn pond, clear and still, pure and uncontrived, placid and uninhibited. What do you think about that, Robert?
I think it's helpful. I'm reading with you. I have the text in front of me. That it is not that we just shut out the world completely, but that we experience the world. We may experience emotions or feelings, good or bad, but we don't want them to stick to us to cause us pain or to cause pain to others. And so the meditation isn't an escape from the world, but it is you are a part of the world, and being the part of the world in a way that is not rejecting anything or not attaching anything. And I think that's what this passage says.
Sometimes I feel like I have the answer, and then I think about the answer, and then in thinking about the answer, I lose the answer. And then eventually the answer returns, and then I think about the answer and lose the answer.
So, that is to be like an autumn pond. A pond in autumn. Doesn't have these kind of confusions, Kit. So you go back to just seeing and hearing are normal. The experience you're having right now is normal. Even intense, difficult experiences, just as they are. Whatever we experience is okay as long as feelings don't stick to things, as long as we don't fall into reactivity. Things are okay, things are fine. Just as an autumn pond accepts and allows, it doesn't get concerned about the details. An autumn pond doesn't need to read this text, but it will accept this text if it's thrown into the autumn pond. Naturally. Yeah, you just throw it in and it has it. Right. If one truly awakens and realizes the fundamental, one spontaneously knows when. Cultivating or not cultivating is a dualistic expression. Now, if beginners have conditionally attained a moment of sudden realization of inherent truth, but there are still long-standing forces of habit that they cannot yet clear away all at once, it is necessary to teaching them to clear away streaming consciousness, manifesting habitual activity. This is cultivation, but that is not to say there is a particular method to practice or take to.
To be honest, that gives me chills because it's right. Like, you only cultivate that moment in the moment. You don't force it, it just happens. And sometimes it just happens, like what I said earlier. And you can't recreate it. You can't force it in any way. And and for me that speaks and says a lot to me because I honestly don't know what my habitual actions are that keep me from doing that. So I mean, I felt chills when you said that because it spoke to me in a very meaningful way. Because I think it's something that you're constantly just sort of manifesting, and it comes up or it doesn't, and you don't try to cultivate it or don't. It just is, and yeah, I don't know. It blows my mind.
Fabian, could you read what you write in the voice text? Could you read aloud? Or I can read for you if you like. Ah, all right. So I'll read it for you, and um, Okay. Fabian says, "Hi. Every time I start to meditate, I hear the loud TV from my neighbor. Even we agreed on certain times to switch to headphones, but he doesn't do. He doesn't do. I tend to use earplugs to shield myself against it because I get very frustrated with this small sound. I get so strong and tangled in this emotions that he doesn't care. And I get so angry from this small sound. I am so attached to the stillness that really brought me a new view on it." Thank you, Fabian. I also have this kind of experience as being a monk. Before I became a monk, I had very romantic ideals about what that would mean and how that would be. And, if you go to a monastery, all of the monks are quiet, everyone's living together in silence. And I had this expectation that, okay, I'm going to this place where there's just stillness. Everyone is having this stillness. But having lived in monasteries and temples throughout, Asia, oftentimes I found that it was very noisy. People were playing things on their phones. And not everyone has the same kind of um, idea of quietness, of stillness. And so noisiness for some people is their base level, you know? And so that reactivity, as you describe it, Fabian, is just was my own attachment to that stillness. But actually, if you can practice to find the stillness within that sound, to practice with that sound, that is real stillness. And it's really, I would say, it's a very, very powerful place to practice. It's very dynamic and a great, great place for growth. When you can really, I found when I was really in those intense, hot, sweaty, stinky, overwhelmed situations, dizzy, noise, smoke, all senses being bombarded by disturbance, when I get into that reaction kind of mind with it, I spoil that whole space. I spoil my opportunity to practice in it, and I spoil the kind of the stillness that is there. It's not all that noise and all that smoke and all those outside things that is disturbing the stillness. It's me. I'm disturbing that stillness. And so rather than getting into a conflict about how things should be or how I want them to be, just to practice with that situation, just to be with it. And the more intense it is, the more you really connect with real stillness. Because you see that even in the midst of all of your senses being bombarded by friction and things that you don't want, there's still a stillness there. There's still a peace there. And you don't have to mess up that peace. You can just enjoy it. And I found that was a very, very powerful and fruitful time that I kind of learned to enjoy and to appreciate more and more. That when we are in those really difficult, intense situations, to enjoy the stillness that's there, because it is there, and not to disrupt it.
Sometimes, in the quietest places that I can find, I'll have these moments where I find a moment of complete stillness, and what do? I say, "Wow, look at that! It's silence," and then it goes away.
Anyone else have a thought? Have an experience at this moment to share?
Sometimes I find too much silence to make me kind of anxious and not able to sit still anymore. I find when it's very quiet, there's like this energy inside me that is like, get up, do something.
You find that there's a stress in the silence and the not doing something, that there's some kind of pull for you to do something.
Yeah, and it doesn't even arise as a thought. It's more just an action that happens before I decide to do it, to just get up and start doing something else. And by the time I realize that I'm like no longer sitting, my body is already like off doing something else.
And so at that moment of realizing, you just touch stillness. Because the idea here, and it's something that came up for me in just this last paragraph that we read. If one truly awakens and realizes the fundamental, one spontaneously knows when cultivating or not cultivating is a one spontaneously knows. So if we truly awaken and realize the fundamental, we spontaneously know. We see clearly, spontaneously. Cultivating or not cultivating is a dualistic expression. So this idea of we're doing the right thing or we're not doing it is a kind of dualism. It's a kind of self-other situation that we're putting ourselves in. However, if beginners have conditionally attained a moment of sudden realization of inherent truth, can somehow say if beginners or people who are intending to walk the path have directly experienced this apiece, this natural awareness, but there are still long-standing forces of habit that they cannot yet clear away all at once. This all at once, this at the present, no other place, no other ideal or figuring out or fixing, but all at once. If they couldn't do it all at once, it is necessary for teaching them to clear away streaming consciousness manifesting habitual activity. So to clear and to calm, it is necessary to encourage or to guide ourselves in that clearing and calming, because we didn't quite get it all at once. We couldn't quite clear away all at once this yard of leaves. Fall time's coming, starting to have some leaves. We couldn't quite do it all at once. So it is necessary to have this approach or to have this encouragement of clearing away all of these leaves that are in our field of our awareness. And because these leaves are there in our field, in our yard, and because we still have this kind of attachment, we get into habitual sirens. We get into a habitual reaction. We can't just see the leaves as leaves, we react to them. We want this clear field. So because of that, it is necessary for encouraging this way of clearing. This is cultivation, but that is not to say there is a particular method to practice or take to. So it is not to say there is this one particular method or way or thing to do or steps to experience, but to process and to clear and to walk the path, but not to say that there is one particular way of doing it. Because whatever quote unquote particular way that we think we're going to do it is just another attachment, I would say. So it is to practice without duality. It is to practice without thoughts of cultivating or not cultivating, and that is cultivation. But we couldn't say there is a particular method to practice or take to.
That makes a lot of sense.
This will certainly make more, or not. Zhu Feng, who lived from 822 to 908, said, "You must perceive your essential nature in order to attain enlightenment." What is perceiving essential nature? It means perceiving your own original nature. What is its form? When you perceive your own original nature, there is no concrete object to see. Terms for the one mind are Buddha nature, reality as such, the hidden essence, the pure spiritual body, the pedestal of awareness, the true soul, the innocent, universal mirror-like knowledge, the empty source, the ultimate truth, and pure consciousness. Robert, do you have the book up on your computer?
I do.
Are you able to copy and paste a selection from it?
I can try. I can copy that selection for you if you like.
Yeah, if you could copy and paste the selection of terms for the one mind, for these terms for the one mind.
Let me try just a moment. I'll put it in
Yeah.
voice text. There we are.
Great. So we can say that these terms for one mind, I'll put it in the YouTube live chat as well. There is definitely some strong pointing about the nature of enlightenment. And what is this Zen enlightenment? What is this Buddhist understanding of enlightenment? So maybe as an exercise, we can look through these names, through this list, and see if you find one that you're interested in or curious about, or maybe one that you could say something about as you look through this list. When you perceive your own original nature, there is no concrete object to see. And all of this encouragement and all of this guidance, it sets up the tone and the quality for our mind and meditation practice. If you don't understand and if you don't get it, and if you find there's nothing for you to grab onto, there's nothing for you to hang onto, this is the meditation mind. This is the refuge of meditation. This is the safe place of correct approach for your meditating practice. Terms for this one mind are Buddha nature, reality as such, the hidden essence, the pure spiritual body, the pedestal of awareness, the true soul, the innocent, universal mirror-like knowledge, the empty source, the ultimate truth, and pure consciousness. Linji said, "People who study Buddha's teaching in the present time should seek real, true, perceptive understanding for now. If you attain real, true, perceptive understanding, you are not affected by birth and death, free to leave or to stay. You don't need to seek anything extraordinary. The extraordinary will come of itself." Followers of the way. Past worthies since olden times all had ways to develop people. As for what I point out to people, it just requires that you do not take on the delusions of others. If you need to act, then act, with no further hesitation and doubt. I think this teaching of not taking on the delusions of others is a very poignant and a very skillful way to approach living our life. Someone says something or someone believes something, that's it. They're saying it. They believe it. That's it. You don't need to fall into endorsing or believing in what other people say simply because they say it. You don't have to involve yourself in that, but you also don't need to reject it. It's only when we believe in what someone says, we give a weight or we give a value to what someone says, that now we want to reject it or fight against it. Because we've brought it in, we've accepted this gift. We don't even like it, and yet we've accepted it. We've brought it in to ourselves.
Hey, Bhante,
Yes.
out of the terms that were copied and pasted, to me, I think the empty source makes the most sense to me. Which one really resonates with you the most? I'm curious. I think it's different for everyone, perhaps. When looking at all these terms and expressions, we'll probably see one of these that we is more prevalent to what we maybe understand.
I like the innocent. I'm very fond of the innocent. I never heard it expressed like that. This one mind as the innocent.
I'm also curious to hear anyone else's thoughts on this too. That'd be wonderful.
Anyone else have a favorite word for enlightenment out of this selection? Anyone particular that sticks out to you? For me, I really like the innocent because it's wonderful to be blameless. It's wonderful to show up totally fresh to an experience and without any guilt or shame or contrivance, just innocence, just awareness, totally and purely there. And when I think of the enlightened mind or the expression of a mind of enlightenment, I often think of a children's mind. how children embody themselves in the world. I think there's naturally there's a deep quality of innocence, and I think children can be such amazing teachers for understanding Buddhism, understanding Zen, certainly for practicing morality. So Keem likes pure consciousness and the empty source. Mia likes the true soul, pure consciousness. Fabian likes Buddha nature. Me too. Vanessa likes the pedestal of awareness because whatever we put our awareness to will be placed upon this pedestal of being seen, of being given importance. Okay, very interesting. How about you, Frayne? Which one do you like?
I'm gonna say the true soul, and what's the other one? The ultimate truth. For me, that's the one I prefer.
True soul, ultimate truth. Joseph likes the ultimate truth. Joseph over in the YouTube chat. So, when students today do not attain, that means when practitioners on the path do not experience any success, do not experience any kind of alleviation of their false conceptions, alleviations of their contrivance. When students today do not attain, where is the illness? What is the problem? The illness is in not trusting yourself, being turned around and changed by myriad objects, not attaining independence. If you can put to rest the mind that runs around seeking thought after thought, you will not be different from masters and Buddhas. I just love this last sentence as a kind of answer to what is Buddhism. Because we know that Buddhism is about enlightenment, becoming enlightened. We know it is about the Buddha, the awakened one. And this master here says, if you can put to rest the mind that runs around seeking thought after thought, you will not be different from masters and Buddhas. If you can put to rest the mind that runs around seeking thought after thought, you will embody Buddhism. Almost unbelievable that could be the teaching, that could be the truth. Almost unbelievable, but not quite. Do you want to know a master, a Buddha? It is just what is in your presence, listening to the teaching. It is when students don't trust that they run seeking outside. Even if you find something, it is all verbal description of excellence. You never get the living meaning of the masters. Linji also said, followers of the way, you urgently need to seek to attain real, true perspective understanding, to go anywhere in the world freely and avoid being confused by the commonplace sprites. Commonplace occurrences. Commonplace, I guess they would say NPCs. Maybe in internet culture they would say NPCs. Maybe no one gets that joke. But the common situations, the common peoples. Just do not contrive. Just be normal. Breath by breath, step by step, moment by moment. Whatever your situation is, do not contrive. I love this word. Do not be artificial. Just be normal. When you try seeking elsewhere outside, searching for something extra, your standpoint and method are already mistaken. There is a subtlety and there is a directness here that is really what we call a wisdom. There is a wisdom here, and what comes to my mind very immediately is the overall spectrum of religion and spirituality, as most of us know it. Crystals, magic, gods, and deities, and these different kinds of beings. Now, I'm not saying that those are wrong or bad, but this kind of teaching, this kind of guidance, it's right under all of that. It goes to the source. It's relating to the source, this essential truth, this absolute truth. There's no surfaceness to it. There's no contrivance to it. It is wisdom. It is direct teaching about seeing your nature, not believing in something. So Linji said, followers of the way, you urgently need to seek to attain real, true perspective understanding, to go anywhere in the world freely, and avoid being confused by the commonplace experiences. Just do not be artificial. Just be normal. When you try seeking elsewhere outside, searching for something extra, your standpoint and method are already mistaken. You just try to seek Buddha, but Buddha is a name, a term. Do you know what it is that is running off searching? I will say it like this as well. You just try to seek peace, but peace is a name, a term. Do you know what it is that is running off searching? The emergence of Buddhas and masters, past, present, and future everywhere, is just to seek truth. Followers of the way now engaged in study also just do it to seek truth. Only when you have found truth are you finished. If you don't, you go round and round in mundane states as before. So what is the truth? The truth is the phenomenon of mind. The phenomenon of mind is formless, all-pervasive, presently functioning, evident in action right now. Because people don't trust enough, they then accept names and terms, seeking in writings to figure out the Buddha's teaching conceptually. This is as far from it as the earth is from the sky. Followers of the way, what truth do my sermons expound? They expound the phenomenon of the ground of mind, which can enter into the ordinary and enter into the holy, can enter into purity and enter into pollution, can enter into the absolute and enter into the conventional, and yet is not your absolute or conventional, ordinary or holy, but is able to assign names to everything, absolute and conventional, ordinary and holy, while the absolute and conventional, ordinary and holy, cannot fix a label on this person. Followers of the way, if you can, go ahead and use it without attaching labels anymore, calling it mysticism. So let's go ahead and use it. Take a moment to find a comfortable posture, to find your meditation position. There is no particular method, but a fine one is just breathing and being aware. Just be normal, seeing normally, hearing normally, just breathing and being aware. We will start and end our meditation with the sound of the bell. So when we finish our meditation practice, it can be very good to give a bow. So we bowing to each other when we practicing in community, and we also bowing to this practice as a doorway, a means of wisdom, a means of establishing peace in our life. So in that vein, we bow, we appreciate it, we're grateful for it. We show our respect and our reverence. Before we end, does anyone have any questions or like to share any experience?
Has anyone figured out how to let go of the method?
You don't figure it out, Kit. You need to hang on to it until your teeth fall out. It's just like your teeth. You don't need to figure out how to make them fall out. They're going to fall out, aren't they? Kit, are your teeth going to fall out or not?
I don't know. Maybe?
Well, no, they will fall out. They will fall out for sure. And the method will also fall away for sure. You don't need to think about it. You just need to be like your gums. Hold on to the method as tight as you can. For all of our sakes, Kit. We don't want to see you walking around with no teeth. So you need to hold on tightly. Also for myself, for all of your sakes, my gums are holding on tightly. And in our meditation, we holding on tightly to that method. And for sure, if we practice in that way, the method will naturally fall away. But no contrivance. There's no figuring out how to do that. There's nothing artificial about the method falling away. Even when I experienced this recently, even when you're very close in your meditation practice, you're really having some, oh wow, I'm starting to have a special experience. At that time, we start to think, oh, should I let go? Should I not let go? Should I focus on this or that? No, the method falls away on its own. You just continue staying with the method. If you have any discerning mind, anything in your mind that's saying, should I do this or should I do that? Should I focus on this or should I focus on that? Anything like that, you go back to your method. You stay with the method. The method will protect you. And it will fall away on its own. Or it won't. Maybe your teeth won't fall out, Kit.
Like I said, I'm just not sure yet. That's okay.
There's a new Marvel movie called The Immortals. Maybe it's about you. Something like The Immortals or they've been around for a long time. So maybe that's based on your life so that your teeth won't fall out, your body won't fade away. You will continue eternally. Or not. Okay, anyone else have questions? Any other question or sharing experience? Kit, your mic muted. I thought you say something. Couldn't hear you.
Oh no. I think you answered my question.
All right.
I have something, Bante. You said something earlier about when someone has a belief or a statement that when we we bring it, we take it into us, we give it, we give it some power or life that otherwise maybe shouldn't have. And it reminded me of a phrase someone told me, which is do your work and then step back. If you have to do something, then you do it, fully and with a sense of authenticity. And then when you're done, you step back. We don't hold on to other people's beliefs or statements or fears. That's like inviting poison into us. But I may have interpreted it wrong, but that was something that struck me.
Thank you, Robert. Okay, so in finishing with some ritual, we can all bring our hands together and we can harmonize. We can sing together, a little bit of singing to end our group practice. We sing this word sadhu, which is a traditional Buddhist word meaning a well done, good job, and may it be so. Okay? So you can chant with me, sing along with me. Sadhu. 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 And bow. Okay, take care of yourselves, everyone. I see you again sometime soon. Very welcome, Joseph.